So far this season, we haven't had a ton of production from the rookie running backs. We've seen spot guys come in here and there, but it wasn't like last year where we had so many big names out there with Akers, Dobbins, JT, CEH, like Swift, all like there were so many guys that had prominent roles. We don't really have that this season. We have one guy that, as far as getting the opportunity, producing, like it's been there, and that's been Najee Harris. Najee Harris so far only playing 6 games, so he's behind some of the other guys that have played 7 games, and this is where it gets a little weird as far as the bye weeks and stuff go, but he's been averaging 20.2 points per game, currently RB5 overall on the year, and he's kind of just stood above the rest as far as overall production. Where would you guys, obviously, most people would have him at the top of the class. Where would you guys rank him as far as this class and then all of fantasy football running backs?
I moved Najee to my top 5. Me and Matt were talking about this on the way down. We went out of town and got a cabin this weekend, just him and I, a little romantic getaway.
Not true, but
you and I did not go spend the weekend in a cabin together?
We did spend a weekend.
Did we not drive down there together?
We did drive together, yes.
Did we sleep in the same room?
We did, actually, yeah.
Okay, enough said.
Separate bunk beds with about 8 other guys.
It got real crazy.
Did that make it better or worse?
Better. It was guys' weekend.
But we were talking, and him and I both, we didn't know that we'd both done this. We talked about it on the show a little bit. Like, I totally revamped my Dynasty running back rankings, and I moved a lot of youth up front.
Sure.
I moved Jonathan Taylor up to number 1. I actually moved Derrick Henry up to number 2, which is
wow,
goodness gracious me, right? It's just, I think he's an outlier.
I don't even know what to think now.
Me neither. I told you, no more slander. I had to pay respects.
I shooketh.
I think I moved Najee Harris up the top. Like, I think I put Christian McCaffrey down to 3. Then I moved Najee Harris up to like 4 or 5. I moved or DeAndre Swift up to 3 or 4, and then Najee Harris. I moved all these guys up, significantly. So that's where I feel about him overall, Najee. So obviously he's still my running back 1 here, pretty easily. I really like what I've seen out of Javonte Williams. Like, I'm willing to admit, I'll put Javonte ahead of Travis Etienne now. James Robinson has something to do with that as well.
Sure.
Move Etienne down a little bit there.
So well.
But to me, it just comes down to, Javonte looks good. Javonte,
he makes the most out of every single opportunity that he gets. He just doesn't get enough of them, unfortunately.
He's actually, just like he did in college, he's leading the NFL in forced missed tackles, which is incredible to do at this level and this early on so few opportunities, because he's a guy that you would think would get better with time, with rhythm, things like that. Najee, going back to Najee real quick, what he's done has definitely been very, very impressive. He's made the most of what he's been given. I'm still worried about some of the efficiency. I'm still worried about just the overall team in general. I think he's a very good player. I still don't know that he's special enough to be in my top 5 personally. But I understand why people would put him there. Anytime you have a guy in his rookie season that's putting up numbers like he is, that definitely warrants at least the conversation for it. So I don't knock anybody for doing it. I'm just not quite there yet with him.
Well, you should be there because he's on a 5-year deal in Pittsburgh. He's about to get a new quarterback. I know Tomlin's come out and said he wants to get a veteran, but nonetheless, Tomlin's not going anywhere, and they're going to use him the same exact way.
He made that very clear today. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
yes, he did.
He's going to be a bell cow running back. So. And that's fine if he's not overly efficient. I mean, if you had Melvin Gordon on your team for the last 8 years, you've been doing pretty well in a dynasty value.
Which is funny because I compared him to Melvin Gordon the other day, and you hated that.
I'm just talking about a player that I'm saying if you're saying he's not a very efficient, I think he's pretty solid.
And I think that's part of the reason I think Roethlisberger and Rivers have good parallels, because they both check the ball down to their running backs a lot, and that's part of the equation as to why both of them were successful in the passing game so much early on. So I just don't know if there's a younger quarterback in there, a more athletic quarterback, that he'll be able to do as much because he won't have as many opportunities.
But he showed me what he could do with a very bad offensive line. He showed me that already. He showed me that he's very viable in the passing game.
But he hasn't done much with the bad offensive line.
Yeah, but he's still producing. He's still producing at a fantasy level. That's the thing.
Receiving the football.
They're going to have to rebuild his offensive line, so it's only going to get better. So he should get better after that. I mean, his offensive line is arguably the worst offensive line in all of football.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's that bad. So
it's bad.
So you still have Javonte 1, right?
I do. I have him back to back. So he's literally right behind him. I think it's like 7 and 6 or 7 and 8 or something like that.
I think Najee has shown me enough in the passing game. I wasn't sure he would be that I guess involved in the passing game, that I did bump him up above Javonte. But it's a fluid. Obviously, ranks are fluid.
For sure.
It's not going to sit there forever. I do think Javonte is a more talented back. He's just not getting the opportunity right now. And until he does, he's going to be behind Najee in my rankings.
Yeah, it's good to it's good in Dynasty to predict for the future, but you also sometimes people are like,
they're not far apart.
Yeah, they're in the moment.
Yeah,
they're in the moment. Everything's so fluid. We say in Dynasty all the time. I made this comment many times over the last 8 years about people going, "Oh, my team looks so good on paper. When this guy hits and this guy gets his opportunity, when Javonte finally gets the workload and this guy does this, and when he pans out here and they draft this guy, it's like my team's going to be unstoppable for 8 years straight." Never happens. Injuries occur. People fade out. People have a good year, then they have a bad year. People are good really 1 year, and then they're bad for the rest of their career. It happens all the time. So,
and I had to come to that realization today. I have a true contender. It was already on the Dynasty GM. It was ranked as the number 1 team. Barely. It was very close. There were 2 teams right behind me, very close. And I have 4 2023 first. You know how much I love that class. I've been preaching that class. I had a need at tight end, and I could use a little more depth at receiver. Trade 2 of those first and Hunter Henry. Got myself Travis Kelce and Keenan Allen today. I didn't want to give up those, but now I'm far and away the favorite.
You're feeling good.
And it gives me an opportunity to win the ship. So you're right. We look on paper and you're like, oh man, my team will be so good when. And sometimes you just got to make sure you win it now.
So on fantasydata.com, Javonte and Najee Harris are both at 0.82 fantasy points per opportunity. So that's a target or attempt. So they're both tied.
They're pretty equal. And I like them both. Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. It's like, for my Dynasty ranks, it's like, what can I get the most out of right now and the future? So it's like that 1 more year of Najee Harris just outweighs Javonte Williams. It's just that 1 more year I have that I'm getting, a top 5 fantasy football running back now. So if you would have drafted Javonte 1, yeah, he might be good next year, which I expect him to be because he's looked really good. But I just missed a whole year of having a top 5 fantasy football running back now. And we know, how volatile this position is, that every year counts as a running back 1.
Absolutely.
So I think it's pretty set in stone that we both have Javonte and Najee 1 and 2. Me and Matt have Najee Javonte. You have Javonte Najee.
Yeah, and they're, like I said, they're back-to-back in my ranks.
So the big thing comes here is who's the third running back.
Yep.
And now let's be fair. We're talking about guys like Kenneth Gainwell, Chuba Hubbard, Michael Carter, Elijah Mitchell, Khalil Herbert, Trey Sermon, Romandre Stevenson, and Travis Etienne. These are the guys left. For me, it's still going to be Etienne. I love his tape. I love what he did. I love how productive he was at Clemson. I love the fact that he's a first-round pick in Jacksonville. I love the fact that him and Trevor Lawrence have a really good rapport, and there's not a lot of weapons out there in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
James Robinson looks good back-to-back years. That kind of hurts him a little bit. That's why we'll move him down, but they're still invested in him for a first-round pick. Even if Herb went, the GM's invested in Travis Etienne in the first-round pick. He's going to get an opportunity. So for me, he's still easily my 3rd running back here.
Me too. I don't think any of these other guys have jumped out quite enough to pass him up at this point, even though he hasn't played a single down this year. So.
And none of them have a clear path to a major role. The only one potentially you could say would be Michael Carter, probably has the clearest path, but he still just hasn't taken advantage of that situation yet. He's had some good games,
right.
But he hasn't done any of those.
He's had some good fantasy games.
Right.
Who's that?
Michael Carter.
Michael Carter.
But he hasn't had that big breakout NFL game.
He hasn't.
But when we're talking about
even Elijah Mitchell, I think, has done more to kind of solidify himself.
I would agree with that.
But he's getting better, though. Michael Carter's getting better every single week.
But you wouldn't put Michael Carter ahead of Etienne, though, right?
No, I would not. But
Okay.
I would be closer to put him there. I had a stat on here on him because we'll be talking about Michael Carter next show.
Okay.
He's actually one of my Dynasty buys.
Right.
So for me, he's somebody. The stats I have on here for him.
We'll
save it.
Yeah,
We'll save it for
absolutely,
the show.
absolutely save it for the Nerder show.
So I think we're 3 for 3 on Travis Etienne would be 3rd then in our rankings.
Definitely.
So would Michael Carter be 4th for you? Elijah Mitchell, Kenneth Gainwell, like who comes after that? Because it's kind of a big tier.
I think it is those 3 for sure. That's a hard one to break up. I mean, my initial reaction is Elijah Mitchell because he's played well. It looks like he's in the favor of the coaching staff there, but that could change literally in an instant.
Sure.
It feels like. So that makes me want to lean a different direction. I honestly don't love anything going on in Philadelphia enough to say Kenneth Gainwell can be this guy. So it is between, for me, Michael Carter and Elijah Mitchell. I think I'll probably go Elijah Mitchell as my fourth, just because I see higher upside there.
Yeah, so here's the way I feel about it. The upside there, Elijah Mitchell's played in 4 games, averaging 12.2 fantasy points per game. Trey Sermon's been just a complete wasteland behind there, been benched now. You're really getting a lot of carries when they trade up for him. He offers a lot of upside, like you said. He offers a lot of upside. I like Michael Carter. I like the way he's been used. He's slowly getting used a little bit more here. Very viable in the passing game. They're about to get Mekhi Becton back here a little bit more too. Kyle Shanahan's so iffy with that running back. You know what I mean? Like, it's so iffy.
That's what worries me the most about picking him.
And it worries me enough that I'd be willing to take – I would rank the next 3 here, Michael Carter, Elijah Mitchell, and then I would have Gainwell and Chuba Hubbard pretty close for me. And the reason I would have Chuba Hubbard kind of close is because Christian McCaffrey pretty hasn't much played football in 2 years. And, one thing you see in football when guys start to miss time, like this amount of time, like consecutively, like it doesn't get better. Definitely at the running back position. Now, maybe Christian McCaffrey can get over this and be healthy forever.
Yeah,
but
absolutely could.
Right now, I mean, Chuba Hubbard's been pretty efficient. He's getting out there giving you close to double-digit fantasy points. Like, so, again, I'm talking about him as my 7th. What are we at here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th rookie. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I have him as my 7th rookie overall. So I'm not saying, oh, Chuba Hubbard's a man. But amongst what's left, like, he offers a clearer path to, like, opportunity. But we already talked about Gainwell in order, and I'm going to talk about Michael Carter a little bit more here after this.
Right.
But for me, I think it goes right now where I stand would be Najee, Javonte, Etienne, Michael Carter, Elijah Mitchell, Kenneth Gainwell, Chuba Hubbard is how I would go down on them.
So you would go down on him. I'm
here to please.
I have the same top 3 as you, but then it would be Mitchell, Carter, and Gainwell, and to take it that one next step further, I think I would rather have Khalil Herbert over Chuba Hubbard. I think I've seen more out of him. I know that his opportunity might evaporate here when David Montgomery comes back, but same thing could happen with Chuba Hubbard. I just like what I see more out of Khalil Herbert. We'll put it that way.
I like everything I see in Khalil Herbert too. His explosiveness but when David Montgomery comes back, David Montgomery's looked really good this last year and a half. He's going to have to like split carries with David Montgomery.
I know. Same thing, Chuba Hubbard though. I mean,
which is fair. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's why I said clearer path for Chuba. I like Khalil Herbert a ton. I like his college tape, but for me, it's just, if McCaffrey's going to stay at this pace of getting hurt, like Hubbard's going to have a more clear path to opportunity with him, Deshaun Watson, DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall, Robbie Anderson.
Deshaun Watson.
One guy we haven't touched on that I think is worth talking about is Romandre Stevenson, and he's a difficult one because it's similar to Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon, where it all depends on Belichick's mood. It all depends on if he missed a blocking assignment or fumbled that game, where he's going to be. I mean, at the end of the Cowboys game, he was starting to look like he was really gaining some traction there. He had the touchdown. He had 3 receptions, but there was a late fumble. I think he recovered it, but there was a late fumble. And I was talking to a buddy that watches Cowboys games real closely, and he was talking about how he was like, he missed a couple blocking assignments there at the end, and then this past week, he wasn't active.
Not even active.
So, that's the tough part is, even though I do think he has some upside as well, it's just so difficult to trust. So Trey Sermon is, there's a chance that he could make, he's still a rookie. I don't want to bury him yet, but he's basically at the level of Jarrett Patterson, Kylan Hill, all of these depth pieces with upside, but they're nothing more. Like, I'm never giving up more than a third at best case scenario for any one of those guys at this point.
And I like Romandre Stevenson. I had him and Khalil Herbert pretty equal. Those were the 2 backs outside the main ones I said had a good opportunity that got opportunity. From their college tape alone, I liked what they did on film. So after that, I mean, all these guys are pretty close, right? Like, I think the most surprising person here that you never would have guessed, definitely when he was going in the first round not too long ago, and I just like the comparison of like when everybody's drafting Jamal Williams, like why draft Jamal Williams or you just take Aaron Jones?
Sure.
That's the same thing about Trey Sermon. Even sometimes people are like, oh, you're Ohio State homer, but that's not true. Like, why would you take Trey Sermon when you could just draft Elijah Mitchell? You know, he had just as good as tape. Out of all the guys we named here, Trey Sermon's probably last on the list.
Yep.
And he would have been third on this list
fourth at worst.
4 months ago.
Well, not third. He would have been fourth
Fourth.
or fifth. Yeah.
Fourth or fifth.
We had the big.
Well,
three,
because of ETN. I kind of forgot about ETN. But yeah.
So fourth. He would have been fourth.
Yeah, fourth or fifth. But yeah, and that's we did talk about that a little bit where, you know, don't take these running backs over these wide receivers. This is a very good wide receiver class. I know you need depth at your running back position, but don't reach for running backs when there are so many good wide receivers in that same range. And if you took Trey Sermon or even Michael Carter, who's been better, but there's a chance that you missed out on Rondale Moore, you missed out on Kadarius Toney, you missed out on Elijah Moore, you missed out on Rashad Bateman, you missed out on, and not all of those guys have played amazingly, but I would still rather have any one of those guys over Trey Sermon, and most of them over Michael Carter as well right now.
I was taking Michael Carter over Trey Sermon the whole time. I remember we talked about it in early in the year during the rookie draft for our long-term 18-year-old Dynasty League. I traded back into the first for a running back. Everybody's like, oh, Rich is trading up for Trey Sermon. I texted Matt, like, everyone thinks I'm taking Trey Sermon, but I'm taking a better running back. I'm taking Michael Carter here.
And you did trade right up above me, and I was like, yeah, I would totally take Michael Carter. And then I ended up getting Trey Sermon, which sucked. But
at the time, you probably weren't too upset.
I wasn't I wasn't broke up about it. I backed him up with Elijah Mitchell in like the 5th round.
Oh, so it worked out.
It worked out
even
fine.
better.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
I was never. I actually don't have any shares except for I think I might have one Michael Carter, but I don't have shares of either one of those guys. I was always lower on those two. I was a big Gainwell guy, and that was kind of the guy that I hyped up. Which he's playing well, but it's still he's in Philly, so who knows?
He's in Philly. It's a dumpster fire. He wears number 14, so I just hate seeing it.
I've got some Michael Carter stats here too. He's my buy for the Nerd Herd episode. So obviously, if you don't listen to Nerd Herd, we do our buys and sells for the week. So obviously, I'll be talking about Michael Carter. If you want to turn in the episode, all you got to do is join the Nerd Herd today.
Yeah, you do.
And you get not only the extra podcast, you get the Dynasty Nerds film room, which is going to become real come in handy as we
Can't
update
wait to film season.
75 games
film season.
a week on top of there. You get the rankings, the nerd score. And obviously you get the Dynasty GM, which is the greatest Dynasty tool in the world.